one of the things that set Armstrong apart from other churches, first of all, he was not evangelical by any means. He grew up in a Quaker family, which I think is what, Protestant? Is that correct?
Or
Well,
depending on its lineage. Yeah, like if it
yeah.
came out of anything beyond the Protestant Reformation, then yeah.
Okay. It was Armstrong's goal to find the one true church, and somehow that came down to finding in the doctrine, which is the Bible, keeping the Sabbath on Saturday, which is something that I think at the moment only Jews do, as well as a couple various churches out there. One of them is Seventh-day Baptist, one of them is Seventh-day Adventist, and another one that Armstrong had narrowed down in his research was a little church called the Church of God, which was very significant because this is the one that he got involved with, not the Seventh-day Adventists like some people think. And so in my timeline, I wanted to go back to the very start of how this concept of Sabbath on Saturday started, like outside of Judaism, because obviously Armstrong believed in the New Testament and Jesus as the savior and such. Yeah, he was non-Trinitarian too, but that's a different topic. So the year goes back to all the way into 1650. Okay, that is when the Seventh-day Baptist Church was founded. As far as I can tell, this is one of the earliest churches, aside from Judaism, that discusses Sabbath on the seventh day, which is Saturday. Okay, and now this church, the Seventh-day Baptist Church, which it's still in existence today. It originated in England in 1650, and it was formed out of this sort of like separatist or dissent movement out of England. So they didn't see any further hope of reforming what was the Church of England. Okay, this is sort of in its early years. You know, Church of England is associated with King Henry VIII. He wasn't able to get an annulment from his wife Catherine of Aragon because he wanted to be with his mistress, and so he broke apart from the Catholic Church, the papacy, and then he created his own church here, the Church of England.
Maybe we'll get to this in the timeline here, but I can't help but notice the Age of Enlightenment in Europe was around about the 1680s.
Yep.
And so to me, I see this like connection with, you know, what you're saying, 1650. There was, you know, kings deciding, well, I'm just going to pay off the Pope or break from the church or do whatever the heck I want to do. And I think that might have been the moment that the people were like, we
We're
can
free!
see you. Right. They're like, we can see you. And it was, I'm imagining this like mid to late 1600s, like deconstruction thing that was maybe happening, like it is again. And to me, my brain is like, oh, that's why the Puritans were like, get me out of here. And why this country got full of all these like religious extremists who were escaping religious persecution. No, 1650s, 80s, whatever, Europe was just woke as shit. And they didn't like it.
For the times, yes. No, you bring up a good point. Okay, that was like 1680-ish. Yeah, that was after the Church of England came along. People started to change their tune. They started to think, well, the king can do whatever he wants. He can think whatever he wants. We're going to do our own thing. So either people left the church completely and started the Age of Enlightenment, or they wanted to go back to the strict old ways, like is very much the kind of people that would stick with Armstrong, even though his church split apart in the 90s. And so we have people like the Puritans and maybe Presbyterian groups or factions, offsets of these churches. They broke apart, and I'm sure they were all sticking together, but then eventually they started coming over to the US, and that's kind of how our US roots began, with puritanical viewpoints.
I agree. I mean, I think it is true that our founding fathers kind of had a, you know, they were still slave owners and shit like that, but they kind of had a slightly more Enlightenment view. But I kind of think the general population, not so much.
And that makes sense, right? That's why I think it is so important to look at the history behind these sorts of things. We could go further back, but again, I just wanted to go as far back as this Seventh-day Baptist Church began, because again, this was one of those Saturday on Sabbath which kicked off our old boy Herbert W. Armstrong. Okay. Yes. And then we jump ahead to the year 1831 with a term called Millerism, or the Millerite movement. Now, I had not heard of this until I had just researched it, okay?
I mean, to some people, they might be like, what the heck are you talking about? 1600s, 1800s? Aren't we talking about something that you guys grew up with? Yes, but isn't it like, I think this is the strength that you bring to the party, Nancy, is you can see this. Like, to me, this is the heart of deconstruction. Like, you're saying, okay, let's pick this apart. Where did that fucked up idea come from? Oh, where did that goofy idea come from? Who put that stupid idea in there? Right? And I just super love what you're doing of being able to stack up these things that you're seeing that probably played into the influences that brought about what we dealt with. Amazing. Amazing.
Well, exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons I was so sucky at things like being an employee, being a student, being a soldier in the US military. I wasn't good at just being told this is the way it is. This is a rule. You're going to follow this without asking any questions. Well, meanwhile, I didn't just ask questions. I wanted the whole fucking shebang about the history behind it. I'm like, why are we letting someone decide certain things in our life, but we don't know anything about them?